Austin, you didn't notice? You got laid off at the server.
Just now?
No, like
Figures.
an hour ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, everyone, 5 minutes until the 498 Game Engines quiz, okay? Please begin promptly at 4:40. You have 5 minutes. Get logged into Canvas if you can. Anyone skipping the quiz? Not the other 4 hours. Actually, it's an accident. So we'll take your votes. Oh,
Use the final example. Just bomb the final. Actually. They're on the one. It was that this Franklin around.
One minute remaining until the quiz opens. Please start it promptly, and you'll have 20 minutes. Those with extra time will have 10 extra. The quiz should now be open. Good luck. You have around 10 minutes remaining in the quiz. Approximately 2 minutes remain in the quiz. We will begin the lecture in 5 minutes. Okay. So not everyone is finished with the quiz. We'll keep it nice and, relatively quiet and smooth. How did the quiz go? Went okay? Right? None of this stuff is ever easy, but I do think maybe this one was a little bit gentler than the previous one, which was, if you recall, stock full of Lua. I do have a hint for you for the exam. You're gonna wanna be a little comfy with writing some Lua, okay? Nothing too crazy, but you'll want to have some confidence with Lua, okay? I have a game engine to show you today before we get into the main topic of the day, which is exam review, okay? I have an engine that will be familiar to you. This is Monogame. This is one of the engines you may have chosen for your homework 1 and 2 way back in our previous lives at the beginning of the course, okay? It feels like a very long time to me, back to that first couple weeks. Does it feel like a long time to anyone else? I can't imagine why. But Monogame has, you might first think of it as kind of a minimalist framework engine, very much appear to Pygame or Love 2D. In some ways, the engine that we're making. But I would say Monogame kind of has a very interesting history, and it's actually one that I'm a little bit connected to. Now, you might not realize this, but Monogame spawned out of love for another framework. Has anyone heard of Microsoft XNA? Microsoft XNA was kind of a mid-2000s era framework that was created by Microsoft. It was one of the earlier frameworks of its type, and in particular, it had just this incredible feature that allowed you to take your Xbox 360. Did anyone ever have a 360? It allowed you to upload your own games to Xbox 360 in your room, okay? You could send your game over the local network, and you could see your game running on a console, which, if you grew up with consoles, as this kind of mysterious box that came from a different corner of the planet, and played, some of your favorite games. You didn't know how it worked. Maybe you didn't know a ton about technology at the time. To see your game running on the same console that ran Halo 3, Gears of War, that was a very special moment. I imagine, especially if you were pretty young when you did it. I remember, I think I was in mid-high school when I got it working and saw my game up there for the first time. I have footage of it. The problem is I couldn't find it last night, so otherwise I would show you what my game looked like. Another thing that was very interesting was you get your game onto an Xbox 360 console via a framework like this, and what do you discover? The Xbox 360 is cheap hardware. It wasn't fast even for the time, okay? I think the original Xbox 360 had a price, like, what was it? $300 or $400? $399 maybe in there, okay? And again, every time I talk about consoles, it has to come up. You can't get a decent GPU for $399 these days, okay? And suddenly, you got this console that has to have a GPU and a CPU and storage and memory and maybe a Wi-Fi card built in, Ethernet adapter, a form to fit this all in. And yeah, there are economies of scale and special deals that the console manufacturers make, but that stuff's going to be pretty cheap. Ravi?
One of my favorite bits of 360 trivia is that the first that hits the base that top the publishers for modified power Mac vibes.
Amazing. Fantastic. Because it was a power, wasn't it like Power PC or something? Yeah. So one of my most vivid memories of console dev with XNA back in the day was I was creating a very basic 2D platforming kind of shooter, and I would shoot an enemy and it would explode and drop a bunch of coins, like 10 coins. Now those coins would all kind of fall and they had their own physics, so they wouldn't fall through the platforms, for instance. And I had about 15 coins before suddenly I started to dip from 60 frames to about 45. A few more coins, I'm at 30, okay? And no, my collisions weren't super efficient or anything like that. But woo-wee, okay? That was the first moment where I wondered to myself, how on earth does this run Halo 3? Okay? This cheap hardware. And that's a quick reminder. One of the most interesting places to be in all of technology is on a first-party console dev team. You know why? Because your mission, if you work at Sucker Punch, is not necessarily to sell copies, it's to sell consoles. You have to somehow take cheap commodity console hardware and you have to make the most beautiful, impressive, performant software out there. It's a tug of war between Sony, first-party maker, needing to use cheap hardware, but you having to produce incredible software, okay? PC grade, gaming PC grade software. And you are in the middle of that, and that's where you'll find a lot of the world's best programmers, finding amazing ways to squeeze every ounce of performance out of that cheap hardware, okay? Anyway, it's very interesting stuff, and if you ever get like a Nintendo Switch dev kit, you're going to feel that, okay? When suddenly your basic-looking indie game runs at 13 frames per second, okay? And that's been me for quite a while, porting my game. Anyway, right, released 2006, it was shut down by Microsoft after a few years, and Monogame, which is kind of an API re-implementation, sprung up. Monogame is open source. You can get it, and it's very impressive stuff. It works very well. It has been the foundation of some of the most successful indie games of the last decade. I'm talking games like Celeste. I'm talking games like Streets of Rage 4. Both of them fantastic, beautiful. Okay? Anyway, this is a minimalist framework, so you don't get a ton. You get input handling. That's pretty cool. Okay, you get some basic 2D and 3D rendering APIs. You get some audio playing APIs, and that's it. Okay, it works really well, but you get so little. But this is actually something that a lot of people love. They want a minimalistic framework so that all those weird Unity and Unreal features aren't getting in our way, okay? And if something is super important to you, if it's fundamental to you in your game, you'll build an editor for it. You'll cobble together a bunch of programs so you can make your game, okay? In a way, it kind of keeps you focused on what matters, not distracted by every new feature Unity jams into their latest release. You might, for instance, grab something like the open source Tiled 2D map editor. Has anyone used Tiled? This is a really nice general purpose 2D map editor. It's fairly flexible, it has a lot of great features, and you can customize, for instance, what its output format will be. So you can really get a lot of control by grabbing a bunch of open source stuff or making your own programs and then combining that with the things that Monogame or another kind of lightweight minimalist framework gives you, okay? It uses the Microsoft public license, which I believe is fairly similar to MIT, and it's all powered by C#. So if you are a disgruntled Unity developer, there's just a lot of C# knowledge in game dev these days. It's a very popular language for game dev, largely because of Unity, but also because of the early days of XNA and now Monogame. Monogame provides a great place for you to experiment, okay? If you find Unity to be too heavy, but you don't want to give up your C#, nice, memory-managed environment, then it might be a really good fit for you. You might be able to move pretty quickly, okay? All right, so does anyone have any comments or questions about Monogame? Not a bad framework at all. It is very much appreciated. One of the most successful ones, I would say, actually. You go to Monogame's website, you're going to start to see some games that you've heard of before. I can't necessarily say the same with Pygame, okay? In fact, I struggled to find games to list for Homework 1 and 2 for Pygame. It was super easy for Monogame, okay? It was a little bit hard for Love 2D as well, okay? All right, some announcements. I saw this last night. Professor Jessie Yang, her research laboratory is looking for researchers, student researchers. Her last 2 main researchers have been from EECS 494. And so she's looking for EECS 440, EECS 494, and game engine architecture students. If you want to go to grad school, again, you do well in this course. You got a letter from me. You do well in something like Jessie's lab, working 10 to 20 hours per week, maybe working over the summer. Get paid. Get Unreal experience, multiplayer experience, and get a letter from her. You're basically in grad school already, okay? You just got to find one more letter, and you got a very good chance, I think, with that kind of start, okay? This is a very cool project they're working on. This is a project where basically it's a multiplayer game where a bunch of human players need to kind of escape a forest fire, a environmental disaster, by cooperating. One player, or actually I think it's an AI, gives help, gives guidance. It's kind of as if you're in the forest and you're talking with the Firewatch ranger. However, sometimes they will lie to you and sometimes they won't. And this is all part of a study in how groups kind of deal with information and share that information and coax out incorrect information. So it's pretty cool stuff. They even have some video on what it currently looks like, which is very cool. Control click. Yep. This is the original version. I'm not sure how many of you have Unreal Engine experience, but one of Unreal's great strengths is that it makes multiplayer pretty straightforward as long as you follow some certain rules. But anyway, they got some UI stuff going on. They got some multiplayer stuff going on. Fairly basic in this footage. But you can see it's evolving pretty quickly over time. I want to show you the most recent version, just from a few days ago. The environments are looking a lot better. You've got a much more interesting path. You've got different routes you can take. You've got fog in the air to block people's view, so you have to work together and talk. This is actually starting to look like a horror experience to me, right? Imagine being out in the forest and you know that there are flames bearing down on you from all sides and you can't see. You don't know which way to go. That sounds terrifying to me. And I imagine as people go through this experience during their study, we might learn a little bit about how humans tend to react. So anyway, pretty cool stuff. Great laboratory, very cool project. And they're specifically looking for people with your skills, okay? Like specifically reached out to me to ask for more of my students. So if you're interested, give it a shot. I know the market is a bit difficult for internships right now, but this could be a really good opportunity, okay? Congrats on no more quizzes, okay? I know these have been pretty tough, but you made it through. Well done. Remember, your worst quiz score is going to be jammed up to 20 when I go to do that at the end of the semester. So if your quiz scores are looking a little bit rough, They're going to look a little bit better pretty soon. A reminder, I'm kind of aiming for questions that are a bit easier than the quiz questions on the exam, okay? Some of the quiz questions are pretty tough. A lot of them are designed to try and poke and prod at certain foot guns or certain caveats or certain ideas or subtleties. We won't be doing that quite as much on the exam. Yeah, so we'll get to talking about that exam pretty soon. Before we get to that, you also finished your last homework, your last auto-graded homework. At least, you've run out of time for it, kind of. You're close enough to being finished. I see you're all doing a great job. How did it go? How do you compare homework 8 to homework 7? I'm very, very curious as we rebalance this stuff. Yep.
I definitely thought overall it was less work than homework 7, but it was way more finicky.
Oh.
It seemed far easier to kind of have things go wrong.
You mean like the body simulating at the wrong frame, or?
Yeah, or just like like the one I mentioned earlier, like 2-7, like the rotation is just like like slightly off, like 5 frames. And but in general, it seemed like it was. I would say I spent less time on it.
Okay, gotcha. I sometimes when I go to sleep, I dream of like what the course would be without any off by 1 pixel issues, or any of these data type precision issues, and I'm like, oh. But that might be a future that is going to be sometime coming. Again, the challenge here is that we could take total control of your engines and start really restricting the data types you use. We've done a little bit of that. But the more we do this, the less it's your engine, right? And so there are kind of these fundamental conflicts we need to figure out. No easy solution, I don't think. But we'll come up with something over the summer. We might need to do some experimentation, though. One really cool thing is that we have all of your code and repos. So we can go find your off by 1 pixel errors, and we can experiment with fixing them up to find out what tends to reduce the likelihood of them happening. So we have a lot of data, that's to say. Anyway, any other thoughts on homework 8? Personally, I thought the test cases are much more fun to watch. Physics is just kind of a really fun thing. It's a really nice thing for an engine to have and support. Your game just kind of comes to life when things are kind of naturally bouncing around and flying around and bumping into other things. So I do think that this was a good place to kind of end our standardized engine for this semester. What's really cool now, moving forward, is that the engine finally will start to feel like your engine. Up until this point, you've kind of been implementing your engine, yes. You've had a lot of decisions to make, but in reality, like, you're kind of designing or implementing my engine design, okay? And as fun as that was for me, you kind of miss out on some of that. You don't get to choose what the API is going to look like, how it's going to work, right? Should we make the rigid body system into a function call or a component? We could have done it either way. Why do you choose one approach versus the other, right? That's the kind of stuff that I really think is very valuable, and we've got a couple weeks now after our exam for you to do that kind of thing, okay? I hope that you've started thinking a tiny bit about what you might want to do for that final custom feature, okay? It does not need to be huge. A big point of this class is once the exam is done on Friday, course kind of lightens up so you can focus on other stuff if you need to, all right? But I hope that you will find an idea that kind of sounds interesting to you, that you can get a bit excited about, okay? Soon this will be your engine. You'll have a new name for your engine, and you'll have a big shiny gem on your portfolio and resume to talk about for hours with your recruiter, okay? I'm super excited for you, and I really hope all the time you put in is going to be worth it really soon, okay? I put in a lot of time for this course. It's painful, but I'm feeling all right, okay? Now that it's headed toward the end, okay? I'm happy we did it. Yes.
For the custom feature, does it need to be like one thing, or could it be like a collection of things?
It kind of depends. What's going to happen is next week after the exam, right? Monday is going to come, and auto graders are going to shut off. By the way, that just means they'll start giving out zeros for everything. That doesn't mean they're gone. You can still submit to them if you really want to. But what's going to happen is you'll come up with a quick proposal in a couple days. You'll let us know what that is. And if we've got any qualms like, oh, it's not quite enough, or maybe it's too much, we'll let you know. But this can be a handful of related tiny tasks you want to do, tiny features, or it could be just a very big feature, right? That depends on what you want to do. We're going to be pretty flexible, especially this semester, with your ideas. Okay, we want this to be yours. Any other comments, questions? Today, I don't have a formal lecture for you, but I do have some ideas and some tips and some information that might better guide your preparations for the exam, okay? This is the first semester of this course. As a result, we do not have a practice exam for you, okay? It's kind of, designing an exam takes a long time. I don't know if I can think up enough questions to put on a practice exam if I wanted to. But I can help you understand what we're going for, what the philosophy of the exam is, and roughly what the categories are going to be, okay? Let's go ahead and take a look at that, okay? What is this exam? Well, this exam is technically a midterm exam, not a final exam, but it is going to be cumulative up to this point, okay? If something has been brought up in lecture, if you've had an opportunity to do something on your homeworks, it could be there. In reality, there's going to be a lot of stuff that isn't going to be there, okay? And I'll tell you some of what won't be there relatively soon. This sounds like a ton of stuff. It's kind of nerve-wracking. However, a lot of it won't be exceptionally deep, okay? Especially the non-programming, non-code writing questions, I think are pretty surface level, okay? Hopefully not too bad. If you're wondering what kind of topics you might want to focus on, here is the front page of the exam, okay? And this link is right here in the agenda if you want to look at it later. Let's take a look here. We've got a good chunk of points, 40, dedicated to the topic of the game engine landscape, okay? What is it like to be in game engines right now? Okay, this could be things like, what are the typical licenses that make a business really spooked, okay? And, you might say something like the GPL, okay? And you might even remember why that is. This is going to be the section where we talk about some of those game engines of the day. If a game engine is showing up in the game engine of the day, it's because it has some sort of interesting thing that separates it from most other game engines. Okay? And so you're going to want to kind of take a look back, all right? You don't need to memorize a ton about those engines. You don't need to know a ton of depth about them. But it wouldn't be a terrible idea to make some flashcards with some of those greatest hits, okay? What is interesting about the Frostbite engine, right? You might remember that, I think it's like EA's thing, and we showed some cool destruction tech, okay? And that could be all you need, okay, for that engine. We have had a good few of those engines, but we haven't had that many. I think we're talking probably about 20, 25. The good news is that the way these questions will be delivered, you'll be able to do some trial and error. You don't have to know every single question. It's going to be matching, right? So if you know most of them, there's a very good chance you're going to get the ones you don't know just through elimination, okay? So not too bad. I think you'll find a bunch of the questions in this section to be pretty easy. C++ and IDE pragmatics. It's right there in the name, all right? A big challenge, right? It might not feel super academic, but a massive challenge we discovered this semester is this idea of why won't my code compile? Why won't my library run? Okay? What data type should I use if I need these characteristics? Okay? And if you've started to get a feel for, oh, okay, I managed to integrate this library. Oh, okay, I'm getting this error message, which means, oh, I've got a problem with my include paths. Versus, oh, I have a linker problem or a dynamic linker problem. Then I think you're going to be okay, all right? This is also where you'll get a little bit of data-oriented programming, maybe, okay? Nothing too crazy, but make sure you've gotten kind of an intuitive feel for why data-oriented programming is usually a bit faster than the object-oriented counterpart, okay? Why is it? What does data-oriented programming allow you to do that makes it, at least in some cases, faster than object-oriented programming? If you felt pretty comfortable with a lot of the questions on the quiz today, I think there's a good chance you're going to be pretty comfy with what happens on the exam, okay? We're going to have some questions on collisions and box 2D as well. Pretty important topic, really brought our engines to life, pretty recent topic. And I can't tell you too much about this section because I haven't written it yet. This is actually the last section I need to do, okay? What I'll tell you for sure is that you're probably going to want to remind yourself about AABB, okay? And you might have to do a calculation with that topic on the exam, all right? It's fairly intuitive, but in general, I would be careful not to just memorize things. Try and understand, if possible, why these things are the way they are. That will make your recall much better because you don't have notes and you don't have technology on this exam. Question?
Do we need to worry about like the AABB coding with box 2D type?
Oh, no. No. I'm talking about the kind that you wrote on homework 6, okay? Everyone's favorite homework 6. I think that's where the off by 1 pixels really attacked for the first time in force. So we have, and this is not going to be a big surprise, we've got some Lua you're going to be writing. There isn't much Lua trivia, okay? We're going to be asking you to write some Lua, okay? In particular, the Lua we're going to ask you to write is going to be the kind that you would write to make a game in your engine, all right? If you have only been kind of like looking at the test cases and not really digging into them, not really experimenting with them, not writing your own, this could be a tough section because chances are you haven't quite gotten to memory kind of how Lua works, how your APIs work. How do you get a reference to an actor with a certain name? Once you got that actor, let's say you want to grab a component on that actor. How are you going to do it? What are the calling conventions to do that correctly? This is the kind of stuff that if you asked me before the semester, I'd be like, I don't know. Like, I'm going to ask GPT. How many of you like ask GPT? You got some Lua you're writing? Like, I don't remember this stuff. GPT, help me fix it. You make a game or two, a tiny game or two. You spend a couple hours. I know time is tough to come by. You got other courses, you got other stuff. But if you can spend a couple hours just kind of playing around, writing your Lua game, making a few mistakes, right? Getting a feel for why certain things are the way they are. Why do you do double colon versus dot? I think you'll be all right, okay? You remember that local keyword, okay? You remember why you need that. You remember Lua's famous foot guns, okay? Easy language. You kidding me? Easy to integrate. Not so easy for other things, okay? Not so easy to write, but not too bad, okay? Not too bad. Anyway, here's an idea. Go in to the Donna Cute-em-up game. That was a test case written completely in Lua. Look at how it works. Remind yourself. Try and write something a little bit similar. Write a component that makes things move with the arrow keys. Go into that final 9.1 big test case that keeps blowing up my Linux autograder and go look at how it works. Not that crazy. Okay? Not that crazy. Not going to be, I don't think there's going to be any event bus stuff on the exam. Don't have to worry too much about that. Okay? But yeah, Lua and understanding how a kind of composition-based game is structured. You got actors, they're basically containers of components. Some overrides are possible. We got actor templates, okay? Make a game, and this stuff should be not too bad of a section, okay? Not too bad, hopefully. You know, Nikhil told me, Nikhil looks at my exam and says, Austin, it's a bit too hard this morning, so I'm going to make it a little bit easier. But keep this in mind, you got 3 hours, okay? You got some time to let it ruminate. And in case you forget some important function calls, they're going to be in the back of the exam in a glossary, okay? So you're going to have some time. You shouldn't need to memorize everything, but really get a good feel for how this stuff works, and I think you'll be all right, okay? Then again, difficulty is such a difficult thing to get just right. So if it does turn out super hard for you, okay, chances are it's super hard for everyone, and it's going to get curved to the moon. So don't panic, okay? Don't panic. All right, the final section is engine architecture and lifecycle functions. I'll tell you right now, you're going to be looking at a bunch of existing code, scene files, actor templates. We're going to make you draw out the frames of a game. Okay? I think it sounds super fun. Like I was having fun drawing it out. Not too bad, all right? If you kind of have a good feel for how your engine works in this course, like it might be easy. I don't know. Probably not, but who knows? It might be. You also, in this section, you're going to have to write some C++. Now, Nikhil told me this is the hardest question in the entire exam, okay? In fact, I was just talking with Ravi. I was thinking, like, what would happen if we took the hardest question on the exam and we just kind of released it 2 days early for the students, you know, just so they could kind of let it ruminate a little bit. I don't think we're going to do that. But I'll tell you right now what the question is. You're going to be adding a lifecycle function that does not exist in any of the homeworks. So you should ask yourself, well, what lifecycle functions make sense out there? And how would I implement a lifecycle function like that? I'll tell you right, go look at the Unity lifecycle functions. Go look at the Unreal lifecycle functions. And, think to yourself, okay, if I had a really simple version of my engine, like what are the high-level things I could do to get that? Okay, you might have to think on this question a little bit, but like I said, this exam is designed to be about 2.5 hours to 3 hours, and you're going to have 4. Okay, so I think you're going to be all right. You can chill for a little bit, and you should be okay. 4-hour exam's a long time. You need to use the restroom during it. What you do is you bring up the exam to me. I'll hold on to it for you. About 5 minutes, okay? I'll start the timer. I do want you back in about 5 minutes, okay? If you've got issues, like medical issue, let me know. I'm not gonna rip up your exam in front of your face unless I'm getting suspicious. Don't make me suspicious, okay? We got to keep this a clean exam, okay? A lot of the things in here are going to be very hard if you just kind of haven't been paying much attention to how your engine works. If you've been over-relying on GPT, like, you kind of ask GPT, how do I do this? Give me code for this, but you don't quite have a good feel for why it's working. It's going to be a hard exam, very hard, okay? But hopefully, if you've been keeping up, if you've been doing a pretty good job, right? You didn't get all the points on homework 7 and homework 8, but you mostly got them done. you mostly have a good feel for what's going on. You did some Lua. You can write your own basic game. I think you're going to be all right, okay? I do. I might be wrong, but we'll curve it if possible. We got some familiar faces here to wish you good luck, and there might be some secret special art just for you waiting at the end of the exam to congratulate you on your mission complete, okay? So I hope you will maybe look forward to it, okay? And get the exam done fast and well so you can enjoy the art we commissioned just for you, okay? Anyway, anyone have any questions thus far? Okay, all right. What else we got? Okay. Yeah, Nikhil says the programming questions are tough, but I think he looked at them for like 5 minutes and not the 3 hours that you're going to have. Okay, the 4 hours actually. Okay. Yep, blah, 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 blah. A quick anecdote from my undergraduate days. I was never a good test taker. I kind of chalked it up to luck at the time, and I remember being kind of salty. I always did very well in the projects and never the tests. What I discovered kind of late in my graduate school career was that the reason I was kind of stinking at tests was because I wasn't actually putting in the time to study. And if you feel the same way, don't give up, okay? Try and get the time in as much as you can. And you might find that suddenly your luck gets better on this kind of stuff. This is another thing that I discovered that was really kind of profound to me. It sounds simple. Has anyone ever had a writer's block on like an essay you're supposed to be writing? You're supposed to be writing an essay on like the history of the trombone. And you know what? I always stunk at those essays, and I didn't really know why. I thought writer's block was like, just a... like a cold you would catch from time to time. It would just stop you in your tracks. You know what I discovered? You ask me to talk about course design right now, I will write you an 8-page paper, single-spaced, in the next 60 minutes, and it will be not half bad, okay? That's because it's a topic I like, and I've been dealing a lot with it. You ask me to write a paper on the history of the trombone, it's going to be a disaster. You know why? I do not care, okay? It's a great instrument. I don't care about its history in the slightest, okay? And I've not spent any time in that topic, okay? This is to say, the next time you find yourself with writer's block or, struggling a bit on an exam, there could be a chance you just haven't really immersed yourself in the topic, right? You don't know what to write about. You don't know what to say because you haven't formed an opinion yet. You haven't formed an opinion because you don't know enough, all right? Anyway, that's a tangent, so maybe that'll be useful someday. Okay, here's some general advice for you. You might consider doing something like making flashcards for those game engine of the day, okay? Again, you don't need to know any of them very deeply, but you will want to have a feel for what makes each engine kind of unique. Its kind of unique story a little bit, okay? Spend a few hours writing some Lua components in the context of making a game with your engine. That's going to be really helpful for that 20-point Lua block on the exam and for the architecture block as well. Review how you brought your Lua lifecycle functions to life on the C++ side of the engine. By the way, Lua Bridge is not a big topic on this exam, okay? You only need to use it a tiny bit. Just grab a couple Lua refs, that's it. And in the glossary at the back of the exam, we have a demonstration of how to use it. So you don't need to go memorize all the weird function calls Lua Bridge gives you, okay? So don't worry too much about that. If you struggled with any of the exams, it might be time to go back to those questions you missed. And if we didn't cover them, if you don't have a good feel for what the answer is, provided the question wasn't crappy, then it might be worth going back and asking some questions. Get some clarification from a member of the staff. That should help you quite a bit. Maybe the first quiz isn't that important. That was mainly about course policies and stuff like that, okay? Don't panic or get too anxious on this exam. You've got quite a bit of time. It was designed for 2.5 to 3 hours. You've got 4. Everyone's getting that time and a half. And you got some time to chill and take a small break if you need to. If you're getting fluxed, what is it? You're getting kind of what's that? Flustered. Yep, you're getting a little bit flustered. You can take a little break. Use the restroom if you want to. Okay, not too bad. Another really interesting thing to think about, and as I design my first exam, this becomes very clear to me. If you've taken 494, you know that you start with a set of core mechanics and ideas, and then you design your levels, your missions, your areas, your challenges to teach the player and to help them explore those mechanics and what they can do and what they're about and the nuances and subtleties to those mechanics. Every question on the exam is trying to get at something, okay? Trying to get you to remember something or to probably not make a discovery. But every question is there for a specific purpose. It's not just random kind of slop put on the page just because I need a question here. Any question will do. No, they're very pointed and specific. And so one thing you can do is if you don't quite immediately know the question, the answer to the question, ask yourself, what's the point of this question? Why would it be designed this way? What is it trying to get me to think about or remember? Okay? Every question is about getting you to think back to a topic from lecture or homework and to think about it just a little bit more. Okay? So that might be a good place to start. Right? Good example. You get to a question and you're not sure how to solve it, but it's kind of like it's giving you some data-oriented programming vibes. Like it just got those vibes on the question, okay? So it might be worthwhile to just think back to data-oriented programming. What was the point again? Can you visualize any of those slides? Okay, and some ideas might come to you. You might get a feel for what the question is wanting from you, even if you don't quite know the exact solution off the top of your head. All right? All right. On the exam, there's this thing called like being a good exam taker or good test taker. Now, I've never been that, so I couldn't tell you much about it. But I'm reminded of RPG games. Has anyone played an RPG? RPG games, you play those a lot. If you get to a location in an RPG where suddenly the music is gone, you've been playing for a little while, you're in a dungeon or something, you enter a room, there's a big door, the music is gone, and there's a save point right next to the door. I'm thinking like I have an idea of what's coming and what the designer's doing here. Okay, what does this mean in every RPG under the sun? You get a little lump in your throat when you see that, right? Because yeah, there's a boss coming. There's a boss through that door. The designer's pretty sure I'm gonna die, so they put the checkpoint, the save point here. Okay. Even worse is at the end of an RPG, toward the end, when you're asked, hey, you want to like go through this door? Hey, you want to jump in this vehicle? And one of the NPCs casually says, I have a feeling there's no coming back. And you're like, uh-oh. They might even say, like, we should probably finish any quests or unfinished business we have before going forward. Or if they ask, like, oh, you want to go through this door? Yes. Are you sure you want to go through this door? Uh-oh. Okay. Anyway, this is all to say, on the exam, if you see a bunch of white space, like in a coding area, it's like we gave you that white space because we probably want you to think about putting some code there. Okay? Sometimes we gave you a lot of white space and you don't need that much. But pay attention to that stuff, okay? It was designed to help you do certain things. All right? I think a lot of the answers to the exams aren't all that crazy. If you get yourself into the right mindset, the answers might just fall right in front of you. So hopefully that'll be the case. Anyway, think like a designer. Think like the designer of the exam. If you were making the exam, what were you trying to do with this question? And what does all this white space mean? If I'm supposed to write some code somewhere, insert it somewhere, there's a suspicious amount of white space right over here. Okay? Blah, 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 blah. Anything else? What is in here? Da, 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 da. Lua, you're going to want to know about some of those foot guns. You'll get an intuitive feel for that if you write some Lua to make a tiny game or two. Okay? You don't need to know the Lua API all that much, but know why you'd want to use something. Okay? We'll have some function calls in there to remind you of syntax. Blah, 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 blah. Yes. I don't know if you need common Lua operations. Know how to iterate through a table. Okay? I'm not sure if you're going to need to have to insert something into a table and remove it. I'm trying to figure out what we want the difficulty of those questions to be. But it's a little bit annoying in Lua. Might be useful to know. Things like table.insert, table.remove. Okay? For the pragmatics, right, know about compiler issues versus linker issues versus dynamic linker issues, which are like, oh, you're missing a DLL. You're missing a framework. So we could build the program and we ran it, but as soon as we ran it, it exploded because you tried to make a function call and the library wasn't loaded yet, so it blew up. Okay? Yeah, just check your container complexities. Remind yourself of that. We're not going to give you any exotic containers, okay? But the ones you probably have in your engine, you should know why you're using them, okay? For box 2D, right, remind yourself of that B2 world, B2 body, B2 fixture, B2 shape hierarchy, okay? C++ stuff, okay? What lifecycle functions would be nice to have in our engine, okay, that we don't currently have? You know, onDestroy was almost the one until I decided it was so important I couldn't leave it out and I had to put it into homework 8. Okay? That was almost it. But I'll tell you, onDestroy is not the lifecycle function you're going to implement. Be ready to look at some code from kind of a data-oriented design principles. Be ready to write a tiny bit of code. Very tiny amount. You know, maybe to convert some stuff to data-oriented, okay? Remind yourself of AABB, not too crazy, but might be useful. And a couple things you don't care about. Lua Bridge stuff, not really on the exam, okay? Hardcore data-oriented programming stuff, we're not going deep, okay? You're not going to be programming your own ECS, okay? Very, very basic stuff. You might be doing a tiny bit of programming, but nothing crazy, okay? And that is most of the deets I have for you. Maybe I'll have some more on the Box 2D section on Wednesday. I'll tell you, on Wednesday, we might just make that a office hours and study day. Does anyone have any questions? You can even maybe ask about, will X be on the exam? And maybe I'll tell you. Maybe I'll just say maybe or kinda. But maybe I'll say no. No, don't waste your time studying that. Any questions? If you got no more questions, then I don't have to tell you anything more about the exam. Who would like to do the exam in like partner pairs? That'd be kind of nice, huh? Maybe you could have one person be dedicated to all the memorization, like a notepad, kinda. I wouldn't worry too much about C++ syntax. I know sometimes those for loops, iterating through stuff, if you've got a pair you're dealing with, it's like, oh, wait, there's a dot first and a dot second, and you know that we're not going to require perfect C++ syntax so long as your ideas are really clear what you're trying to get. It's like you want to do that stuff, you grab an IDE, okay? Okay, any other question? We will ask for better, more perfect syntax on Lua though, because it's not that much to know. It's going to be on a Friday, I think 5 p.m. Is that right? Yep, 5 to 9 p.m. EST. After 9 p.m., after you're finished, you can go celebrate like Friday was meant for. Reminder, if you've got additional submissions you want to make to the auto graders, at this point, everything is going to be penalized 20%. But you've got until Monday at 4:30, okay, to catch up. I'll remind you, right, grading is going to be a bit relaxed at the end of this semester as thank you for taking part in a risky pre-alpha course. But we really do want to see you put in a really good effort, okay? I'll say you come close to finishing homework 7. I think you got a legit engine on your hands, okay? That's all I'll say. You get homework 7 and 8 done, like you're there, you're golden. If you haven't quite made it pretty far through homework 7, then that's a bigger question for me, okay? You don't have an engine, really? If you need help to pass the course, might be tough. Might be tough for us to justify, okay? Even with our thanks. Okay? So keep that in mind. All right. Any other questions? Okay. I'm super excited. It was fun, pretty fun exam to design. I kind of ordered things to get you some confidence. So you got a nice difficulty curve, I think. You're going to knock, that first page is going down. It's going down hard, okay? You're going to rock that first couple pages, I think. The problem is the first couple pages, everything's 1 point, okay? So nothing's super hard, but you got a lot of questions to knock down. Boom, boom, boom.
How many pages is the exam?
Oh, that's actually a tough logistical question for me. Because right now we're at about 30 pages. Okay, now here's the deal. A few of the questions are like, hey, we got like 3 pages for you to look at stuff, and then you have to insert like 1 line. So some of the questions consume a ton of that space. You also have a few pages for the glossary, and you got some pages for the blank pages in case you need something to write on. You also have that final mission complete page, reward for you. It's not as long as you think. I think it's going to be double-sided if I can. Big challenge is like, where am I going to print these so I don't break the bank? Also, I got to get some of these pages in color, or they're not going to look nearly as cool. So Thursday, that's going to be my entire Thursday, running around campus trying to figure out where I print this stuff. Well, yeah, it'd be a huge shame if we had to like push the exam back or cancel it and give you all 100%. I'm going to come in on Thursday. All the copiers are going to be sabotaged. I'll find something. We might have to. Oh gosh, I could move it to Canvas, but I really don't want to do that. If like emergency disaster scenario, I don't think maybe I could. Ever could bring their laptops. Question.
So when you said we're going to have a life cycle function.
Yep, lifestyle function.
Yes, it's simple. But do you mean like we're going to do like get global namespace?
No.
Rich stuff like, okay, all right, so are we going to implement that in C++ then? Like,
Yeah.
We're going to add things to the active.h component or whatever you put.
Yeah, you've got a collection of Lua refs, and you want to call a function on those Lua refs. We show you how to do that in the glossary in case you've forgotten.
Okay, so it's just
and now the question is, you've got a few C++ files to look through. Be like, all right, if I want to get these things called at the right moment, I need to add a bit of data over here. I need to make a call over here and do some logic here.
So we're going to add data structures or no?
You're going to augment some data.
Okay.
You might say, for instance, hey, my draw image request could really use like an extra bool or something.
Yeah.
Okay? Or an extra string. So you write that in, and you're going to use that elsewhere. Yeah.
Does it matter how fast it is?
No, not on that question. No.
Just correctness.
Yeah, just correctness. Yep.
Have you made stickers for the course yet?
What's that?
Stickers.
No.
Completion stickers? Because
No.
I saw yours for for like
494.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
that one.
so Redbubble has a delivery and printing time frame of like 10 days, and I've got about 21 days remaining. So I'm probably going to get those ordered this weekend.
Can we have Donna on the sticker somewhere?
I was thinking about that. We do have I was thinking I got some extra funding for the course, so maybe I'll give you a choice of sticker. We have a course logo.
Really?
Yeah, it's this one. Where you been? It's on every document right at the top. It's going to be on your exam. And I commissioned that. The other courses have their own logos too. I really like, you got to take EX440 because it has my favorite. We took a Block M and strapped a VR headset to it. Oh, that's not the logo. That's DALL-E. There we go. Yeah, strap a VR headset right on. Okay, we got another minute, then we'll do some office hours. Any more questions?
What's like the ratio of multiple choice to questions?
There's let's see. There's one question where you draw out the frames. I don't think that's going to be a very hard one. We got one C++ writing question. We got a second where you'll write a little bit of code relating to data-oriented design. We got two Lua, big Lua components you're going to write. And then, yeah. So they're not very complex components, though.
What about? Oh wait, so are we not? So it's just gonna be Lua, C++, and not not JavaScript. Markdown language. So we got JSON.
Oh, yeah, you're not going to write any JSON. You're going to have to read some, but you're not going to write any. You're going to accidentally forget the comma in your scene. 0 out of 10. Trailing comma, literally uncompilable. Okay? Literally uninterpretable. I can't believe the JSON parsers can't deal with that. YAML would have been a really good choice, I think. Yeah, I kind of blew it on that one. Maybe you can switch to YAML for your custom feature. Okay, any final questions? Yes? No coroutines, not on it. Coroutines don't appear once. Total no-show. Anyone else? What?
Is unenabled or disabled the function?
Those are lifecycle functions we don't have yet. Yes?
My question is around registering functions through Lua Bridge.
You don't do any of that. No. You're not going to use anything from Lua Bridge except for Lua Ref. Like once. Okay. Yes?
One follow-up on that. So, a lot of the discussion slides had the Lua Ref encapsulated inside a component type.
Yeah.
With some additional booleans and stuff.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to answer according to that, or can we do it how we do it in our own?
It's going to be simpler than that. The code you're going to find is going to be a very simple version of what the general purpose game engine could be. So it's not going to have a bunch of other stuff in there. Yeah, one tough thing is that you might have made your engine slightly differently than the course staff did, and differently from some of your peers and how they did. But on the test, you're going to get a very simplified vision of the engine. Okay? And each question will tell you can make some assumptions. So I wouldn't worry too much. If the question is rubbish, it'll get emptied out and blanked by the curve anyway when everyone messes it up. And if it's really bad, I might just get rid of it altogether. The problem is I'm not sure how to logistically do that when we got 55 30-page paper documents to go through with no digital copies, really. So it's going to be a curve if we need to get rid of a question that wasn't very good. So, okay. Any final questions? Then office hours? You can ask me questions during that too. Okay, everyone, I wish you good luck. don't panic. Don't let it weigh on you too much. You've made an incredible thing, okay? It might take a while to realize just how impressive it is, the thing you've created. Take this next week and kind of, get a good feel for why it's awesome, okay? That might be the best advice I can give you for this exam, okay? Go have fun with your engine. It's crazy stuff what you've done. We're going to see you next time. We'll see you on Wednesday. It's probably going to be mostly office hours thing on Wednesday. I might have a game engine for you. I would not worry too much about these game engines that I'm bringing up right before the exam. Probably not going to be there or might be there in a really simple way. And let's do some office hours, okay? 2 hours. All right, everyone watching the stream, the recording, take care, and we will see you next time. All right, bye-bye.